is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about balancing the lower chakras, sacred sexuality, and why it's important. I'm going to be sharing all of this from a very spiritual perspective and some of the things of what's going on with the energy when we're engaging with our lower chakras in different ways, and thus then how we can balance kind of any distortions or any disassociation or weird stuff so that we can actually use our sexual life force energy for awakening, for creative expression, for vitality in all aspects of our life. In the West, and generally in like Christian esotericism, there's been a huge disconnect from our lower half. And it's just kind of like, this is bad, we're not gonna look at it, and just focus up here, just focus up here. You know, there's a lot of indoctrination, even if we're not a part of those, say, religions anymore, that is kind of stuck with us. And it's like subtle and subconscious. And so we want to bring all of this to the surface and actually educate ourselves on how we can relate to it in a healthy way, especially spiritually. There are spiritual repercussions of what we're moving towards as a collective, and so bringing this to consciousness is very helpful. Some of the ways that we can kind of start to wrap our minds around where we're at as a humanity is that statistically, up to a third of women, depending on the studies, have never had an orgasm. While at the same time, 7 out of the top 20 visited sites on the internet are porn sites. So we're seeing that there's like this drive, this incessant craving for sexual energy. And in my opinion, what we're actually craving is connection. And this connection isn't happening, which is one of the reasons why the women's orgasms aren't happening, which is also connected to the idea of lack of education. We just don't know what to do with it. How can we bring consciousness to it and kindness to it and excitement and balance that's really healthy and really healing? So the first place that I want to begin is the raw material. And this has been very helpful in my own process with this energy. And I had my own spiritual experience around this. I have a video about that, so you can go check out that. But I want to get into the meat of what is going on here. So what they talk about is sexual energy transfer. So obviously when you're having sexual relations with someone, there's a transfer of energy. And where is that energy coming from? And how is that being transferred? And so one of the ways is it can be transferred through what they call the orange and the yellow ray, which is pretty much the sacral and the solar plexus chakras, which can include the base chakra. So when two people are engaging just from those lower chakras, that looks like objectification, possession, domination, those kinds of energies. And so what ideally in the spiritual realm that we're wanting to do is move the energy up to the heart chakra. You're bringing the vitality and energy of these lower centers up to the heart and actually having a heart green ray transfer with the other person. One thing that's very interesting, and I've experienced, is that if one person is coming from this heart center, the green ray, and another person in the engagement is coming from the lower centers, say the yellow or the orange ray or chakras, then what actually happens is an insatiable craving. The person that's coming from the lower centers actually has more of an incessant kind of craving and frustration that comes with engaging with a person that is coming from the green ray. And this is very interesting. I've experienced it. And so what we're wanting to do, if possible, is having both partners move to the space of the heart, and then there isn't this kind of insatiable craving happening, and both people can meet in a higher space of love while also integrating the lower chakras. One of the questions you might be asking is, well, why do I want to have maybe this higher energy kind of engagement? And one of the reasons in Taoist principles is that if you have a lot of this fire energy, but it's distorted and not used properly, it actually burns up your light and your chi. So it burns up your life force energy if it isn't brought up, which is kind of a bigger conversation, bringing it into the microcosmic orbit. But at least in this conversation, bringing it up to the heart is vital, because this is one of the best ways of activating the Kundalini from the base. You can activate Kundalini from the head and the heart, but it's a really powerful way when we can bring up that energy, it can help us tremendously for spiritual activation and overall vitality. And one of the ways that we can kind of have it be distorted is when we get certain pleasures out of negative habits, negative patterns. And so I have a shadow work video that specifically helps you in doing this. So I suggest checking that out. And also, when we're coming from this lower space, if we're engaging from just the lower centers, from this place of like domination, manipulation, control, it also leaves room for negative entities to feed off of your energy and connect with those chakras. And that's possibly part of the reason why there is this impulse and this insatiable need, is because it draws in these other energies that actually then again sucks and leaks your life force energy. So it's really important to start just saying hello to it, bringing consciousness to this conversation, to this area, and how you engage with it, your relationship with it, and starting to be kind with yourself. Another piece of this conversation, which is really important, was a warning or a prediction made by Rudolph Steiner about our time right now, that it was very, very important and essential for the balance, the spiritual balance of humanity, to not let pathological sexual desires just kind of run wild, where there was manipulation and kind of strange distortions within the sexual realm. He specifically talked about this because it would distort society. And so he suggested illuminating and bringing full consciousness to this area of life and this area of energy so that we can come into right relationship with each other. And one of the ways that I see this kind of manifesting in our time is through things like Tinder, where there's just a pure objectification and want for sexual engagement, and that is it. And where literally the person, or maybe the soul behind it, doesn't actually matter. They're just like swiped to the side and on to the next one that brings up that sexual impulse and satisfaction. Maybe not that core connection. And so what we're wanting to do is to come into relationships, especially as male and female, or whatever biology, as peoples coming together, to where we love and cherish each other for who we are, not just because of the sexual satisfaction that we can get out of each other. Like, that's not the end game here. It's the illumination and the kindness, almost that brother and sister kinship, that family kinship that we have for each other as humans, that is really essential to bring forward at this time, and to engage with each other in this deeper connective way that is actually more connected to the heart. And that is one of the ways to illuminate these lower centers. And of course, the sexual attraction is setting off biological cues for reproduction, and so there is validity to that, but also honoring the other aspect and keeping that higher aspect of love and connection alive as we engage with each other as friends, as romantic partners, as a humanity. And I think that that's very, very important. I know that there's been a lot of sexual repression for millennia, particularly in the West. And so it's kind of like, yay, it's a free-for-all now. I can just do whatever I want and fulfill any fantasy I want, which I think is very healthy in a way. And also just keeping in mind this illumination, this bringing up of the energies into the heart so that we can connect with each other from a space of love. So I hope that this has been helpful. I do have another video on sex and spirituality, which goes into the magic possible, particularly through orgasm and this higher connection that is available for us to connect to in this way. So I recommend checking that out and watching that. And I am really interested and excited to do more videos then on how to actually clear these chakras, bring more consciousness to them, activate it, utilize the energy. So I want to be getting into more of that. So if you have any specific questions or video topics, I would love for you to comment below and let me know. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you get notifications every time I do new videos. And thank you so much for watching and bringing consciousness to your whole being so that we can connect with each other's whole beings. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.